So the last video we did a Wordle clone. Now if you've played Wordle at all, you'll notice that if you refresh the board in the middle of the game, it keeps the game state. So the words that you've already guessed and letters that you've already guessed remain there, and this is to obviously prevent cheating. I didn't implement that in the previous demo, so we're going to look at local storage and how that works in JavaScript and in the browser in this tutorial, and we're going to use local storage to implement statistics in our Wordle clone and also to preserve the game state. So if you reload the browser, everything should still remain the same. If you enjoy this sort of content, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. It'll really help this channel grow and get seen by other people on YouTube. So to show you what I'm talking about, put my glasses on so I can see. But I also have Wordle up here, the actual real one. It's still coming from powerlanguage.co.uk and not the New York Times. I don't know if you saw that news, but the New York Times bought it. So we have the website. I've entered a word. It's wrong. I've got 2 correct letters. I don't have any statistics just yet because this is a new browser instance. But if I was to reload the window, you can see that it keeps the letters that I've guessed already. It keeps the keys that are pressed already. So if you have a look over here, I've gone into the Dev Tools in Chrome and clicked on Application, and we can go down here to Storage and Local Storage. And then under Local Storage, we've got the actual website that we're visiting. So we click on that, and you can see there's actually 2 items here in local storage. So we have Game State and we have Dark Theme. Now I'm using Dark Theme, so that's what that is. If I click on Game State here, it's actually an object that contains a bunch of statistics and details that refer to the actual state of the game. So the game state is in progress. We've got some evaluations here, which is the letters that I've just entered. Now you can see that this is done differently to how I've done it in my demo, but that is fine. We'll still be able to use local storage to maintain our own game state. And then you have board state. So board state here refers to the word that I've entered here and the other words that I haven't yet entered. Now the funny thing is, if you actually look down here, you can look at the solution. It's actually stored in local storage. So if you really wanted to cheat, you could go into the Dev Tools and have a look in Application, Local Storage, and see the actual answer. But we don't want to do that. What's the point in doing that? So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use local storage, and we're going to convert the Wordle clone that we've already built to using local storage. So here is the Wordle clone that I built in the last tutorial. Now I've actually made some changes to it since the last tutorial. You can see that I have a statistics button and a help button up here to try and make it look as similar as possible to the real Wordle. So if I click on this little icon here, I can see the instructions, close that, and I click on this, and I've got an empty statistics modal. So we're going to fill that in this tutorial. Some of the logic has also changed. I'll be pushing this code up to GitHub. So if you want to review it, I'll share the link to that in the description, and you can have a look through what's actually changed. So you can see in the index HTML, I've added down here, these are the modals, and we have the statistics modal here. And I've got a few elements here that are waiting for statistics, which we can use JavaScript to set them up. So in our tutorial, we also use the words API to get a fresh new word. But if you remember from that tutorial, it can get words that people haven't really heard of. So what I've decided to do for this part of it is I'm going to hard code the words into the actual JavaScript, which is possibly what they do in the real Wordle game. So you can see here I have an array of words. These are all very familiar words. And I get a current word takes words and the current word index, which is set to 0 for now. And so therefore the word we're looking to play is sweet. So I'll just show you if I type in hello, enter, it obviously doesn't work. And the problem we're going to face here is if I refresh the window, everything resets. So that's what we're going to use local storage to fix. So I'll type in hello again and press enter. And then if I type in sweet and press enter, I win. And click OK. What I've done here is I've cleared the board a little bit. So if you wanted to take a screenshot and share it with your friends, that's what you can do. But the problem is, how do we play the next word? If I was to refresh, then I'm refreshing the game state again, and the word is still sweet. So I need a way to get onto the next word in the array. So I have a function that I have created here, which has nothing in it, called init local storage. So in here, I'm going to initialize local storage. Now, to set an item in local storage, you can use window.localstorage.setItem, and to get an item from local storage, you can use window.localstorage.getItem. So what I want to do here is I want to set the current word index into local storage and then read it from there when I have reset the board. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a stored current word index equals window dot local storage dot get item current word index. Now, the first time you load this game, that's not going to exist. So we can say if there is no stored current word index, we're going to get window dot local storage dot set item. And the set item takes two arguments. So the first argument is the name of the item we're setting into local storage. That's going to be current word index. And the second argument is the value. So we are going to take current word index, which comes from here, and this is set to 0. However, if we do have a stored current word index, we will then assign it to this variable. Now, the one thing that's important to know about local storage is you can only set strings in local storage. So if you want to set a number, it converts it to a string. If you want to set an array, you need to convert it to a string beforehand. So when you're actually getting something from local storage, you need to then convert it back to what you expect it to be. So in this case, current word index equals, and I'm just going to pass into number stored current word index. In fact, what I need to do is put this in an else block, because I then don't want to overwrite the current word index of 0, which we're starting with. So I'm going to then call this function up here with all my other initialization functions, and we'll call init local storage. So what happens after we either win or lose the game? We need to move on to the next word. So we need to update the current word index and the actual current word. So down here we have our winning and our losing functions. So what we want to do is update word index. So we'll create a function now that does that after both winning and losing. And we can just put that up here. So we'll say function update word index. And we can say window dot local storage dot set item current word index. And we're going to say current word index, which is a number, and we're going to just add +1 to that. And then what I forgot to do up here on init local storage is when we're setting the word index, we also want to set the current word. So we'll say current word equals words current word index. Now let's see where we are with that. So I have an error here, cannot access current word index before initialization. I wonder if I move these above the init functions, are we gonna be, and also words. Okay, so let's start with looking at our application and local storage. And we have current word index stored in local storage now as a value of 0. So let's see what happens if we do suite, enter, and OK, Wordle, you win. And now you can see current word index has changed in local storage here to 1. So if I refresh that and I try suite again, it is the wrong word. So we can now check our next word, onion, enter, and we've now successfully reset the game to move on to the next word. And if we keep going, we should try the third word, and that is shoes. And there you go. So that's the first part of local storage. So I'm going to delete this from local storage here. You can simply click on it and delete it if you want to reset it. And I'm going to refresh that to start again. And you can see it's now set current word index to 0. The next thing I want to do is add some statistics. So after show result, we know that we've won, and we want to update the number of wins that we've recorded in our history. So we can start here by saying const total wins equals window.local storage dot get item total wins. And if it doesn't exist, we can just assign it to 0. And then we can just do window.local storage dot set item total wins. Total wins. And of course, we convert that to a number in case we already have a stored value, which will be a string. So we say number total wins +1. We also want to update the current streak. So I can just copy this. current streak, and we'll, because the current streak will obviously change by 1 anytime we win, but if we are losing, we want to basically set the current streak back down to 0. So once we've lost, we'll say window.local storage set item current streak, and we can just say 0. So if we have a look at our statistics modal, we have total, wins, win percentage, and current streak. So we also need to update the total, and we can calculate the win percentage on the fly. So we can create a function, update total games, because that's going to be used after we win and after we lose. So again, I'll copy this, call this total games, and we can find where we're using this. So we'll say update total games and update total games. So let's have a look. So we've got only word index in here. So if we do sweet, we should have a win. We say okay, and now it updates total wins, current streak, total games. If we refresh, that persists. And if we just play until we lose. Sorry, your normal guess the word is onion. It's now changed our current word index to 2. Total wins is still 1. Current streak is 0, and we've played 2 games. So now let's look at updating the statistics modal. So if we look at the stats modal in our HTML, we have spans with IDs. So we need to update total play, total wins, win percentage, and current streak. So the best place to actually do that is if we look down here into init stats modal. When we click on this, click this event lister to open the actual modal itself, we should then quickly stick in the statistics there. So we're going to call a function called update stats modal. And up here, create update stats modal. And let's get the statistics. And then we can do total wins, total games. And then let's go document .get element by ID. And the first one we have here is total play, total wins, current streak. So we have total played. We say text content equals total games. We have total wins. And then the other thing we need is win percentage. Let's do that separately. Win percentage. So win percentage is total wins divided by total games. Then brackets and multiply that by 100. And we are just going to also round it. So we get a nice, using math.round, so we get a nice round number. And what we'll do here in case we get a nan error is we'll just do or 0. So let's restart. Current word index is 2, so I don't know what that word is. So we'll just, for testing purposes, enter the wrong word. And now if I look at the third word, I've got shoes. So let's see what happens there. Shoes, enter, well done. So my stats have updated. Now if I open this, it doesn't work. Oh, I've actually put this in the wrong spot. So that should be here where I have my little note, update comments here. And so let's refresh there. Our stats should stay the same. And now when we open our stats modal, you can see our statistics. So we've got played 3, we've won 2, our win percentage is 67%, and we're on a current streak of 1. Now the last thing we want to do is preserve the game state to prevent people from cheating. So let's say you've had 4 goes and you've got it wrong and you're nowhere near getting it, but you've got some ideas of what not to guess. You can refresh the board, it clears the board, and we don't want that because that's cheating. So just here under create squares, we're going to create a function called preserve game state. And in preserve game state, we're going to start by storing our guessed words array. So we're going to get window.localstorage.setItem guessed words, and then guessed words is an array, so we're going to have to convert it to a string. So you can use json.stringify and pass in guessed words, and that converts it to a string. So we just need to remember on the other side that we need to convert it back to an array. So we need to parse that JSON. The next thing we want to do is actually store the keyboard container in state. So if you notice, we type in some letters, we play the letters. Keyboard actually shows that the E is green because it was correct, and the H is green, and then these two are dark gray. So we want to preserve that entire state. And the easiest way to do that is to actually get the keyboard container element. So we're going to get keyboard container, post document, get element by ID, and that is keyboard container. And we're going to set that in local storage. What we're going to set in local storage for keyboard container is the element inner HTML, because that's actually a string. So that's what we want to store, and that's what we're going to replace. We want to do the same with board container. And we'll just copy all this. Board. So we're going to call preserve game state after a word has been submitted. If you're entering a couple of letters and you haven't submitted the word yet, if you refresh, who cares? You just lose your letters. So I'm going to go down here where we actually have our little set timeout, which animates each letter in. Because we have this interval, if I was to preserve the keyboard state down here, it would preserve the state before all of these class names were added and all that sort of stuff. So for the board, we want to preserve the state as soon as the class names have all been added to every single square. So we're going to do that inside of the set timeout, but we're going to make sure it's the last square. So once the last square has been updated, we're then going to preserve the game state. So we'll call that in here, and I'm going to save that, and we'll now have a look and see what happens. So I'm going to call hello, enter, and now you can see I've got my guessed words, I've got my keyboard container, and my board container. So if you have a click on here, you can see the HTML is stored down there like that. Now the other thing I'm missing is guessed word count, so I also need to store that in local storage. So you can see up here I have these 4 things that I want to store in local storage. I've got all of these 3, I just don't have guessed word count. So I'm just going to store it immediately after I update it. So I'm going to say, so it's been updated, I'm just going to set it here in local storage. So somewhere up the top, I've got init local storage, so I'm just down here, I'm going to call load local storage. And this is where I start fetching everything from local storage. So I'm just going to do that real quick, and I'm not going to talk you through it. You'll just see as I'm typing what I'm actually fetching from local storage. And you can see with guessed words, as I mentioned, it's an array which was being stored as a string. So we use json.parse to convert it back into an array. So we've got all these items, we're taking them from local storage and we're setting them against the variables above. We also need to set current word equals words, current word index. And now let's also get the elements that we just stored. Okay, so what we're doing here at the end is we're fetching the keyboard container and the board container from local storage, and we're setting the inner HTML, which is what we stored originally, of the stored board container instead of the one that's already there. So I just want to be careful that I'm not setting these to something that doesn't exist yet, because you might remember if we haven't played a word or played a game, not all of these will exist. So I'm just going to do a couple of guards here at the end. We're set it to the existing variable if it already exists. So I'll move this up here. And I'll say if stored board container. Then I want to update it, and the same for this. If stored keyboard container. And we'll move this up as well. And that should work. So now we need to figure out when to call this. So we're going to load local storage. We have create squares and add keyboard clicks here. So we want to do it after that. So let's see what happens here now. So immediately, if I refresh, you can see that the board comes back. My colors come back. The keyboard remains the same. I'm not now losing game state. And if I was to play a word, my keyboard clicks are not working. So in load local storage, when I'm loading the HTML, it looks like I lose my on clicks. So we look at a stored board container, stored keyboard container. So we can set the inner HTML and then we can call this add keyboard clicks function. And let's see if that works. So, and now we're missing something else. We're missing guessed word count. So what I'm going to do here, so it looks like I'm missing available space. So I'm loading it from local storage, but I'm not setting it in local storage. So there's the problem. So what I want to do is update available space after the word has been submitted. We don't want to store it in local storage after every letter has been submitted because we only care about the game state after each word has been submitted. So after handle submit word, and I have this commented out code which checks that a word exists. I'm not using that for this demo. We can then do it about here, set available space, and I'm going to clear everything out, reload, hello, enter, then we have available space 6, and refresh, and that's still there. And then if I type, and then we now have the next word, and we have a winner. And we have our statistics again. If we reload, we are getting the game state back. So what we need to do is make sure that once the win has been recorded, we clear out the board container and the keyboard container and all the other stuff. So up here we can create a reset game state function. In reset game state, we can remove some items from local storage. So we can say window local storage dot remove item, and there's a few things we're going to remove. So I'll just add a few of these. Current word index, guessed word count, guessed words, keyboard container, board container. And we reset the game state after we win or we lose. That's right, I don't want to remove current word index. Here and here. And so we play this and it'll be sweet. We go okay, resets the game state but keeps the current word index. And then when we refresh, we have our next word. So that's incorrect. And the correct word is onion. Well done. Our statistics are maintained. We refresh and we go again. That is local storage using Wordle as an example. If you didn't watch my original Wordle video and you're interested to see how I made this actual clone, I'll link to it in the description and you can see it probably about here in the video. So make sure you go and watch that also. But that's it from me for now. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It'll really help my channel grow. And I'll see you in the next video.